This is the way football seasons, actually all seasons work this way. You know, in the baseball season, it doesn't really start until the trading deadline. In the NBA season, okay, you have the All-Star game, and then it's like, all right, the real coaches and the real players start to emerge. But in football, it's generally when it gets cold, and we're moving into, this week's going to be warm, but it's starting to get cooler around the country. The weather is going to change. We're getting into late October and early November. And yesterday I'm watching the NFL, and it felt like Separation Sunday. Now there's the surprise teams and the shocking teams and the emerging teams and this young quarterback and that young quarterback. But watch over the next 3 months. It'll be a lot of familiar names emerging. So yesterday, you look at New England last night, and they made all these acquisitions in the offseason, mostly offensive acquisitions, some defensive acquisitions. It takes them a preseason and about 7 games to get rolling, and suddenly now Brandon Cooks is dialed in at wide receiver. Gronk is back. The secondary is slowly coming together. They have a young pass rusher emerging, and suddenly New England's 5-2, Brady Belichick a field goal from 6-1. And then there is the Seattle Seahawks. They have a young offensive line. They're trying to develop a running game. They bring in a new defensive lineman to the Pacific Northwest. His name is Sheldon Richardson. Suddenly, yesterday, the Seahawks go off a bye, have that extra week, that bye week to get their act together, and they allow 1 sack all day. Total domination over the New York Giants, who were held under 180 yards. Russell Wilson, this is what he does. Buys time, the duct tape to a poor running game and offensive line. He's had to deal over the last 6-7 years with a bad running game, a hurt running back, a diva at wide receiver, injuries here. And you'll watch them, and suddenly Seattle looks really good again. How about the Pittsburgh Steelers? Let's shift to them. They had a holdout, did the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then Big Ben had retirement talk. And they have a very young defense, which initially couldn't stop the run. Suddenly they figure out Le'Veon Bell is going to spearhead this offense. Let's lead it with him. Last 2 weeks, they have clubbed Kansas City and Cincinnati. The young defensive players are getting better. What do you know? So now New England's dialed in, and Seattle's dialed in, and the Steelers' running game is dialed in. Let's shift gears to Dallas, who was really good last year and had a great offensive line and a star running back. They've got an anthem controversy, and then Zeke has his legal issues, and they've got some injuries on the offensive line, and suddenly they get a bye week. They get a little healthier. Wow, did they look rested, prepared, and fantastic? And by the way, they have coached up some of these young defensive ends. The Cowboys, my friends, the most impressive thing yesterday was not Ezekiel Elliott. They now have a pass rush. Yes, they now have a pass rush. So here we go. Look at that Dallas pass rush. It just jumps off the TV, big, strong, fast, dynamic. Oh, it's the 49ers. 49ers had played everybody to a field goal, and they were just ambushed yesterday. So here we go. Let's look this morning. Let's look each other in the eye. We don't want to admit it. Here's Belichick, Big Ben, Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, Tomlin, the Dallas offensive line. And you know who went back to reality? The charlatans, the frauds, the phonies, the September superstars. Trevor Siemian back to reality. Tennessee Titans and Tampa Bay. I don't care that Tennessee won. Inconsistent as always. Scam Newton back to being his roller coaster self. Andy Dalton and Matt Ryan have regressed to the mean. Fakes, tricks, pretenders. You know the old saying, you can only date a girl so long before you see her without makeup. Well. Here we are, late October, same 4 or 5 legendary quarterbacks, legendary coaches, Steelers organization, Patriots, Seahawks, and yes, the Dallas Cowboys. I put my trust as we head into late October in November, not in the Trevor Siemians, not in the Titans, not in the new Lexus in the block, the cool new front yard. No. Give me tradition. Get me what has paid me off before. They're all back. All right, let's segue now to the Atlanta Falcons. I know, I saw those signs the last year. I was at that Super Bowl. 28-3, 28-3. They blew the lead. They're way better. 28-3. You could see the signs all over the place. It was circled. This game was circled. There were banners hanging everywhere. Atlanta went for it on 4th and 7 early and 4th and 6 early. Oh, they had circled this game. This game, my friends, would be different. Do you know what we discovered last night? That 28-3 lead by Atlanta was the anomaly. That was the exception. Everything we've seen since 28-3, that's who the Atlanta Falcons are. Al Gore once talked about inconvenient truths. I'm going to give you some inconvenient truths about the Atlanta Falcons. You do with them what you will. Number one, Atlanta has blown 10 10-point leads since 2013, most in the NFL. Matt Ryan, his quarterback rating today is 89, back to his career average. They've never won a playoff game in back-to-back years in the history of the franchise. And in a 20-year scan we looked this morning, they've never won their division back-to-back. Yeah, that's who the Atlanta Falcons are. The 28-3 lead over New England, that was the anomaly. That was the exception. The reality is what you saw last night. New England at home led big at half. New England again leads their division. Tom Brady, 21 of 29, no interceptions, a couple of touchdowns. Gronk was fantastic. That's reality. The Falcons and Patriots, since Atlanta led 28-3 in the last Super Bowl, I'll put it on the screen. Since the lead, this is reality. New England has owned the Falcons. Of course they should. They've got the better coach, the better quarterback, the better system, the better history. They are great in crisis in Atlanta last night and the Super Bowl and this year and since 2013 shrinks in crisis. Got nothing against them. Never have, never will. Why do you hate Atlanta? I don't. I don't hate Atlanta. I love the truth. Last night, that's Atlanta and New England. That's really what they are. I want to say this about the Dallas Cowboys. So it is always easy in the NFL to say, well, you just beat this cruddy team or that cruddy team. And I understand it, right? But like winning in the NFL, I don't care the Rams won 33-0, period. That's like impressive, right? We know the Cowboys' O-line was good. They needed rest and they needed to get healthy. We know Ezekiel Elliott's good. But let me tell you something about Dallas. This defense, for the first time, I can't even remember the last time the Cowboys had this many good guys up front defensively that are explosive. They had 8 quarterback hits. They had 5 sacks. They had 12.5 tackles for loss. Like when you watched the Cowboys yesterday, David Irving, defensive end, that is a real player. He was an undrafted kid. He can make Pro Bowls. DeMarcus Lawrence, 9.5 sacks. That is a real player. He was a second-round kid. And I would say Dallas, to me, moved into a very interesting unit in the NFC. Philadelphia, Dallas, and the Rams right now are the 3 NFC teams that are both good on the offensive and defensive lines. Seahawks are very good defensively up front, have offensive weaknesses. I think Green Bay can be pretty good offensively up front. I question their defensive front. Eagles, Cowboys, Rams, to me, when you're good on both lines, and Dallas's own line's great, but if you look at Jacksonville this year, Jacksonville's not great, but they have really good line play. You're in every single game. They've had 2 games with 10 sacks as Jacksonville. So when I watched the Cowboys, that just jumped off the TV screen. Size, speed, strength, dynamic, energy up front. This is going to keep Dallas in all these games. When you have an O-line, D-line combo like Dallas, doesn't mean you're going to win them all. You will not be humiliated. The Rams have lost 2 games, could have won both. If you can control the trenches, you will be in games with 6 minutes to go. And in this league, it's pretty much all you can ask. We know they can run the football. We know Ezekiel Elliott's really good. That's a given. Now they've got a component on the other side. Kristine with the news.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from the newest show on FS1, First Things First, with Chris Carter and Nick Wright.